Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. My 46F daughters, 17 and 15, have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, 78M and 80F. My ex passed away in an accident last year, and we've had some major family drama since due his cheating and him leaving two boys born with his affair partner orphaned. She also died. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters and them also trying to live with us. First one we're going to court over, second one will never happen. Where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it was my youngest birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted, mostly chocolate and sweets. After an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying some weird people have cornered her. I ran to her with my oldest daughter to find 6 older women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphaned baby brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out about my ex cheating and the babies, so they aren't fond of the kids. It's trauma, and they are working with a therapist. I got between the group and my daughter, telling my eldest to go pay the stuff her sister had and to go to the car. Then I turned to the women, some who I knew from when we went to my ex-in-law's church, and ripped them a new one. They told me I was worst for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. Barf. Eventually the screaming turned too loud, and we were all asked to leave the market. I met with my girls in the car, the women following me like a group of vultures. I managed to get in the car and drove away. After my girls went to bed, I got online to talk to another member of that church that I'm in good terms. I told him about what happened, and after he apologized, he told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we are leaving them homeless and penniless, they inherited my ex-personal bank account and his life insurance, and how my daughters don't even talk to them. She also accused us of being the reason she lost her grandsons. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie. And of course, they were getting all the love and support from the more extremist members of their church. This church and its members are a bit annoying, especially with LGBTQ+ topics, but they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It's a big no-no, be it from a husband or a wife equally. Now, how did she get around blaming me about affair children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other woman was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children, then said I didn't want the babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess, and since I was mid-divorce when my ex died, I had all the evidence needed. And since the divorce wasn't completed, I don't have any legal ramification for releasing all the evidence. I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, the ones with his parents confessing to his cheating and getting support from them, my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my coup de grace, all the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they call my daughters bastards and telling them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce. This one was literally 2 days after my ex died. I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful high-quality paper. Then when I got home, I sat down for hours to make delightfully personalized binders. They look like the little prayer song packets the church give for everyone to take to sing hymns. The first picture when opening the binders is my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern, and the girl looks nothing like me, different skin tones and hair color. Underneath I wrote, ex-husband's name and affair girl's name love story. I took them to the church before service. There's a desk in the back with the songbooks for people that forget their own, and they never check them. The gossip mill was quick and harsh. The names my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook were so bad the pastor himself had to get involved just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their abuse to my daughters, but what made me laugh was that I was still in the wrong for the divorce, but it is understandable that I failed on my duties after the shock, and I possibly will one day return to the light, unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used another word I can't use here, I imagine. I got 2 apology letters in the mail for my girl and an invitation to join the church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, They got shamed into leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore. How she wished her great son was still alive since he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money, I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. Explanation on the will. My ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I was aware, he had told me he had named our daughters, not them. I never pushed for me to be the beneficiary, as my own will has my daughters as the beneficiaries, not him. The first one is an entitled people's story. For 6 years, I'd lived in the same second-floor apartment in an old converted factory building. The neighborhood wasn't anything special when I moved in, just affordable enough for a marketing associate with student loans to manage. But over time, I'd fallen in love with the place. The exposed brick walls, the tall windows that flooded my living room with morning light, the community garden where I'd learned to grow tomatoes with the retired teacher next door. I'd made it mine in every way I could without actually owning it. Painted the walls with permission, installed floating shelves, replaced the dated light fixtures. I'd even paid out of pocket to upgrade the ancient appliances when my landlords, a middle-aged couple who had inherited the building from the husband's father, refused to replace my refrigerator when it died. "That's just wear and tear," the husband had said dismissively over the phone. "Not our problem." It wasn't the first time they'd neglected their responsibilities. The washing machine in the basement laundry room had been out of order for months. The security door to the building frequently jammed, but I stayed because I loved my apartment and my neighbors had become like family. Then everything changed on a Tuesday in April. I'd just gotten home from work, a job I'd recently been promoted at, moving from marketing associate to marketing director with a substantial pay bump, when I noticed the envelope that had been slipped under my door. At first, I thought it was just the monthly newsletter the landlords occasionally remembered to distribute. Instead, it was a notice informing me that my rent would be increasing by 40% starting in 30 days. 40%. I stared at the number, convinced it was a typo. Even with my promotion, that would stretch my budget to the breaking point. The next morning, I called the landlords. "I wanted to talk about this rent increase," I said when the wife answered. "There must be some mistake. A 40% increase with only 30 days' notice seems..." "No mistake," she cut me off. "Property values in the area have gone up. We're just bringing rents in line with the market." "But I've been a tenant for 6 years," I protested. "I've always paid on time, taken care of the place." "Look," she said with an audible sigh, "if you can't afford it, maybe you should move somewhere more suitable for your budget." The condescension in her voice made my blood boil, but I kept my cool. "I'd like to discuss this further. Maybe we could meet in person. I'm sure we can work something out that's fair for everyone." "There's nothing to discuss," she replied. "This is our building, and we get to decide what to charge. That's how property ownership works." After she hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, fuming. Then I started making calls to my neighbors. Turned out I wasn't the only one facing a massive increase. Mrs. Chen on the first floor, who'd lived in the building for over a decade, had received the same notice. So had the young family on the third floor and the retired teacher next door. "I don't know what I'll do," Mrs. Chen told me, her voice shaking. "I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford this." That evening, I stayed up late researching tenant rights in our area. What I discovered made me even angrier. Our city had rent control ordinances that limited annual increases to 5% for buildings like ours. The landlords were violating the law, counting on none of us knowing our rights. I printed out the relevant laws and invited everyone in the building to meet in my apartment that weekend. 8 of the 12 units were represented, all facing the same increase, all worried about their futures. "They can't do this," I explained, passing around the printouts. "This increase violates the rent control ordinance. And look at this. They're also required by law to address maintenance issues within 14 days of being notified. How many of you have had maintenance requests ignored?" Every hand in the room went up. We decided to confront them together. I drafted a letter, citing the relevant laws and requesting a meeting. Everyone signed it, and I delivered it to the landlord's unit on the ground floor, the largest apartment in the building, which they'd converted from 2 smaller units years ago. 2 days later, they called a building meeting in the lobby. I assumed they wanted to address our concerns collectively. I was wrong. "We've received some troubling correspondence," the husband began, glaring directly at me. "Some of you seem to think you can dictate how we run our property." "We're not dictating anything," I replied calmly. "We're just asking you to follow the law." His face reddened. "Don't you lecture me about the law. This is my building. I can do whatever I want with it." "Actually, you can't," I said, pulling out my phone where I'd saved screenshots of the ordinances. "The rent control law clearly states..." "I don't care what it says," he shouted, cutting me off. "If you don't like it, you can leave. In fact, I think we'll be issuing some eviction notices to troublemakers very soon. The wife stepped forward, her voice sickly sweet. We've been very generous landlords, letting some of you stay despite late payments over the years. She looked pointedly at the young family whose father had been laid off last year and had struggled for a couple of months. Maybe it's time we found tenants who appreciate us. After they stormed out, the lobby fell silent. The young mother was crying quietly. Mrs. Chen looked shell-shocked. They can't evict us for complaining about illegal rent increases, I assured everyone. That's retaliation and it's also illegal, but I think we need professional help. The next day, I called a tenant rights attorney. After hearing our situation, she agreed to meet with us at a discounted rate. 6 of us pooled money to cover the consultation. The attorney confirmed what I'd found. The increases were illegal, as were the threats of eviction. She also pointed out that based on our descriptions of maintenance issues, the building likely had code violations that could result in hefty fines. I can help you file a complaint with the housing authority, she offered. They'll inspect the building, and if there are violations, your landlords will be ordered to fix them and could face penalties. We agreed, and she filed the complaint that day. What happened next was pure coincidence, or maybe fate. My uncle, who was a retired real estate investor, called to congratulate me on my promotion. During our conversation, I mentioned my housing troubles. "Send me the address," he said. "Let me look into something." 2 days later, he called back with interesting news. The building wasn't just neglected physically, it was financially underwater. The landlords had taken out several loans against the property over the years, and according to public records, they'd missed the last 2 mortgage payments. They're headed for foreclosure, my uncle explained. That might be why they're trying to raise rents so dramatically. They need cash fast. I told him about our complaint with the housing authority, which was scheduled for inspection the following week. That's going to make their situation worse, he mused. If they get hit with code violations, they'll need to pay for repairs they clearly can't afford. Then he asked a question that changed everything. With your new salary, have you considered buying a place? I laughed. In this market? I've been saving, but I'm years away from a down payment on anything decent. Maybe not, he said. This building might be available for less than you think if it goes into foreclosure, and I might be willing to help with the down payment as an investment. I thought he was joking, but over the next few days, we ran the numbers. With the building's income potential at legal, reasonable rents, my savings, my new salary, and my uncle's investment, it could actually work. He connected me with a real estate attorney and a mortgage broker who specialized in these types of transactions. Meanwhile, the housing inspector came and went. As expected, they found multiple code violations, electrical problems, a roof leak that had been causing water damage in 2 units, missing smoke detectors, and more. The landlords were given 30 days to make repairs and fined $10,000. Their reaction was to corner me in the hallway the next day. "You think you're so smart," the husband hissed. "You and your little tenant rebellion. I know you're behind this inspection." "We just want a safe, properly maintained building," I replied, trying to step around him. He blocked my path. "You've made a serious enemy. I have friends in this city. I'll make sure you regret this." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, pulling out my phone. "Should I record this conversation?" He backed off then, but the encounter solidified my resolve. Working with my uncle's contacts, we discovered the landlords were deeper in financial trouble than we'd realized. Not only had they missed mortgage payments, but they also owed property taxes and had several personal loans secured by the building. The attorney helped me create an LLC to shield my identity, and we approached the bank that held the mortgage. Given the owner's default status and the property's condition, the bank was willing to consider a short sale rather than go through a lengthy foreclosure. I won't lie, the next few weeks were incredibly stressful. I was essentially working 2 full-time jobs, my actual job and the complex process of trying to buy a building out from under my landlords. There were moments I thought it would fall through, especially when another investor expressed interest. But my uncle coached me through it, and having the support of a tenants' rights attorney who understood the building's issues gave us an edge. The other investor backed out after learning about the code violations. 3 months after receiving that rent increase notice, my LLC became the owner of the building. No one knew except my uncle, the attorney, and the bank, not the other tenants, and certainly not the landlords who had continued to act as though they owned the place, collecting rents, though they'd backed off on the increase after our legal challenge, and ignoring maintenance requests. I waited until all the paperwork was finalized before making my move. With the help of my attorney, I drafted 2 letters. The first was to all tenants except the landlords, informing them of the change in ownership, guaranteeing no rent increases for 2 years, and providing a schedule for addressing all maintenance issues. The second was an eviction notice for the landlords. I hired a professional property management company to handle the transition and deliver the letters. They did so during another building meeting I organized, ostensibly to update everyone on our battle against the rent increase. I'll never forget the look on the landlord's faces when the property manager entered the lobby. "What's this about?" the husband demanded. "I'm here representing the new owner of this building," the manager replied, handing out the letters. The landlords ripped theirs open first. I watched as their expressions shifted from confusion to shock to outrage. "This is impossible," the wife sputtered. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said, stepping forward. "The building was purchased legally through a short sale with the bank you were defaulting on payments to." It took a moment for everyone to process what was happening. The landlord stared at me in disbelief as the other tenants opened their letters. "You?" the husband finally managed. "You bought our building? How? With what money?" "That's not really your concern anymore," I replied. "What is your concern is the eviction notice in your hands. As you can see, you have 60 days to vacate the premises." "You can't evict us from our own home," the wife cried. "Actually, it's my home now," I corrected her. "And I'm choosing to live in your unit once you've vacated. I believe your exact words were, 'This is my building. I can do whatever I want with it.'" Mrs. Chen started laughing first, then the others joined in. The landlords stormed out, but not before the husband promised to fight me in court. They did try to challenge the eviction, but their case fell apart when my attorney revealed they had illegally converted their apartment from 2 designated affordable housing units, a violation of the building's zoning permit. 2 months later, they moved out. I didn't move into their unit as I'd threatened. That was just poetic justice. Instead, I converted it back into 2 affordable units as originally intended and offered them at below market rates to a local community college student and a nurse. The building required significant work to address all the neglected maintenance, but with the rental income properly managed, I was able to take out a renovation loan and tackle the issues one by one. I installed new washers and dryers in the laundry room, fixed the security door, replaced the roof, and updated the electrical system. A year later, the property was finally running smoothly. The tenants formed a committee that met with me monthly to discuss any concerns, and I set up a maintenance request system that guaranteed 48-hour response times. The most satisfying moment came when Mrs. Chen told me she'd run into our former landlords at the grocery store. They were now renting an overpriced 1-bedroom apartment across town, dealing with their own maintenance issues and unresponsive landlord. They asked if there were any vacancies in our building, she told me with a smile. I told them they should look for somewhere more suitable for their budget. I never planned to become a landlord. It happened because I refused to be bullied out of my home. But now that I am one, I'm determined to be the kind of property owner I wish I'd had. Fair, responsive, and respectful of the fact that a building isn't just an investment. It's where people live their lives. Sometimes justice requires taking matters into your own hands, or in my case, taking ownership of the problem, quite literally. The next one is a malicious compliances story. This is probably super mild compared to most things posted here, but I just remembered it, and it made me laugh, so here goes. When I was in high school, far longer ago than I care to admit, I was a bagger at a local grocery store. One of the policies of the store was that we had to offer to help everyone take their groceries out to their car. Anytime someone elderly or someone with a lot of bags came through the line, I would offer to help, and many of them accepted. There were a lot of parents with kids that turned down the help because they would make their clones help instead. I quickly learned who was going to accept the offer and who wasn't, so if they fit the criteria for not being interested in help, I didn't bother to ask. They always refused, so why keep asking? Well, one day my manager is hovering while I'm bagging, and a lady bought a carton of eggs and a loaf of bread. I smiled and wished her a nice day, handing her the single featherweight bag, and she smiled and returned the greeting and was on her way. My manager noticed I didn't offer to help her out and scolded me, and I just pointed out she had one partially filled bag that was super light, so probably wouldn't have needed help. He emphasized it was the store policy and I need to offer help to everyone. The next guy in the line was definitely a gym rat. A foot taller than me, biceps as big as my head, a tight tank top, and basketball shorts. It's been so long I can't remember what he bought, but it occupied a single bag and wasn't heavy. I double bagged it, still in front of my hovering manager, and said, "Sir, would you like me to help you carry all of your groceries out to your car?" He laughed, saw I wasn't also laughing, and his expression changed to utter confusion. He looked at me like I'd just asked him what shampoo he used on his armpit hair. It was 95% confusion, 5% suspicion at what game I could be playing with him. He looked at my manager with a new look that said, "Is this kid okay?" Then turned back to me, still chuckling a little bit in confusion, and said, Nah man, I think I got it." He took his bag of protein powder and eggs or whatever it actually was and walked out, shaking his head. I looked at my manager and shrugged. His expression read as, "Yeah, all right, fine." And he went back to the office. He never hovered or enforced the policy again after that. Like I said, super mild and short compared to a lot of posts on here, but it was my first case of malicious compliance, so hopefully you guys got a laugh out of it as well. The next one is an entitled parents story. I, 28F, first met my former stepmother, Crystal, not real name, when I was about 7-ish. We didn't realize she was entitled until much, much later. At first she was really nice, and my dad liked her for her kind personality and her at the time deep faith. When they got married for the first few years, everything was wonderful, and I really got along with my older stepsister. Even after everything, I still consider her a sister. It wasn't until after she broke her leg I started to see her entitled side. She was so demanding of us kids to do stuff, which at the time us kids didn't know how to do. I was about 11 being asked to make dinner, and all I knew how to cook at that time was eggs. My dad had put a stop to a lot of it, but she would lay it on thick to him saying we should be doing this stuff because her leg was broken. It didn't prevent her from getting up to go smoke or go grab another beer. It built up over the years until finally Dad had enough with one incident that could be its own story itself. They divorced, and my youngest brother is in split custody due to the state we live in, with my dad with primary custody. Turns out she was an opioid addict and meth head and still thinks she's entitled to us kids even though I'm an adult now. Background setup now onto the recent event. I got an email from a site people use to look for sex offenders in your area. Particularly the email was addressed to Crystal. It had her address in it, which I never lived at, her name and phone number, but it has my email. I searched through my email to find if this was a one-off fluke. It wasn't. I have about 4 emails for sites she signed up to using my email address. I saved the emails if I even decided to go legal with it, but I decided to be petty and change the passwords on the accounts before deleting them. I honestly don't know when or how she got my email, but I'm not the little girl she could bully around anymore. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll